Welcome to Wisdom Trek with Gramps. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, and we are on day 2890 of our trek. The purpose of Wisdom Trek is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, and to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. The title for today's Wisdom Trek is Tears by the Rivers of Babylon, the Exile's Anthem of Defiant Remembrance. In our previous episode on this grand historical expedition, we stood on the absolute summit of Hebrew liturgy, exploring the magnificent rhythmic crescendos of the Great Hallel, Psalm 136. Our voices joined the thunderous ancient procession as we chanted the eternal, unyielding refrain, His faithful love endures forever. We celebrated the supreme sovereign of the cosmic council, who skillfully forged the heavens, pinned down the chaotic primordial waters, and systematically slaughtered the giant rebel kings, Sihon and Og, to hand over the promised land as a permanent inheritance to his treasured people. We rested deeply in the comforting assurance that the God of heaven remembers us in our weakness and fiercely pours out his fatherly compassion upon his servants. But today, my friends, as we step forward onto day 2890 of our journey, we experience a sudden, violent, and deeply jarring shift in the landscape. We are entering into what is arguably the most heartbreaking, emotionally raw, and controversial poem in the entire Psalter, Psalm 137, verses 1 through 9, in the New Living Translation. The triumphant, sunlit courts of Jerusalem have vanished. The glorious chords of the temple orchestra have fallen completely silent. Instead, we find ourselves sitting in the mud, weeping in the suffocating shadows of a hostile foreign empire. The inheritance appears to be entirely lost, the holy city has been burned to ash, and the people of God are trapped inside the geographic epicenter of the cosmic rebellion. Let us step onto this agonizing section of the trail, adjust our lenses to navigate the dark waters of sorrow, and listen to the defiant song of the exile. The first segment is The Heavy Harps and the Cruel Taunts of Babel. Psalm 137, verses 1, 2, and 3. Beside the rivers of Babylon, we sat and wept as we thought of Jerusalem. We put away our harps, hanging them on the branches of the poplar trees, for our captors demanded a song from us. Our tormentors demanded a joyful hymn, Sing us one of those songs of Jerusalem. The poem opens with an incredibly vivid, melancholic scene that captures the profound trauma of displacement. Beside the rivers of Babylon, we sat and wept as we thought of Jerusalem. We put away our harps, hanging them on the branches of the poplar trees. To fully comprehend the immense spiritual and psychological warfare embedded in these opening lines, we must view this geography through the profound lens of the ancient Israelite Divine Council worldview as masterfully taught by Dr. Michael S. Heiser. In the cosmic geography of the ancient world, Babylon was not just a powerful human political empire. It was the historical and spiritual womb of the cosmic rebellion. This was the territory of Babel, the exact site where humanity originally attempted to build an autonomous empire to make a name for themselves, resulting in Yahweh disinheriting the nations and placing them under the jurisdiction of lesser, rebel spiritual principalities, the fallen sons of God. To be violently dragged away from Judah and forced to sit beside the rivers of Babylon meant that the Israelites were physically sitting within the occupied territory of hostile, rival Elohim. The rivers of Babylon, the complex network of irrigation canals fed by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, were symbols of the empire's economic might and the apparent supremacy of their gods. The captives sat by these waters, completely crushed, and they wept. They were not just homesick. They were experiencing a profound theological crisis. Their temple was destroyed, the Ark of the Covenant was gone, and it appeared to the watching world that the rebel gods of Babylon had successfully triumphed over Yahweh. In their deep grief, they performed a symbolic act of architectural silence. They hung their beautiful, stringed harps upon the branches of the weeping poplar trees lining the canals. The music that had once filled the cosmic center of Mount Zion was intentionally shut down. The harps became dead weights, swaying in the foreign wind. The pain of this silence is violently exacerbated by the psychological cruelty of their captors in verse 3. For our captors demanded a song from us. Our tormentors demanded a joyful hymn. Sing us one of those songs of Jerusalem. This was not a polite request for cultural exchange or musical entertainment. This was an act of aggressive, mocking, spiritual intimidation. The Babylonian soldiers, acting under the dark inspiration of their territorial deities, wanted to humiliate the broken exiles. They wanted the Israelites to perform their sacred, liturgical temple hymns, the grand songs of Zion that celebrated Yahweh's absolute supremacy over the nations, as a circus act for the amusement of the conquerors. It was a cruel taunt designed to force the captives to admit defeat, to mock the apparent helplessness of their God, and to pressure them into assimilating into the pagan culture of the empire. The enemy wanted to weaponize their own sacred music against their souls. The second segment is The Oath of the Unbending Tongue. Psalm 137, verses 4, 5, and 6. But how can we sing the songs of the Lord while in a pagan land? If I forget you, Jerusalem, let my right hand forget how to play the harp. May my tongue stick to the roof of my mouth if I fail to remember you, if I don't make Jerusalem my greatest joy. The text responds to the cruel mockery of the captors with a fierce, defiant, and completely unyielding refusal. But how can we sing the songs of the Lord while in a pagan land? To the ancient Israelite, singing the Shir Yahweh, the song of the Lord, was an act of high, localized covenant sanctuary. The sacred songs were designed exclusively for the cosmic mountain, the holy space where the presence of the Creator uniquely dwelt. To perform these holy liturgies for the amusement of a pagan audience, within the defiled, demonically supervised territory of Babylon, would be an act of supreme spiritual treason. It would be an acknowledgement that Yahweh could be domesticated, transformed into a minor, defeated deity who exists merely to entertain the proxies of the rebel council. The exiles draw a hard, non-negotiable line in the mud. They choose silence over sacrilege. The psalmist then seals this refusal by swearing a terrifying, double-sided personal oath of absolute, multi-generational remembrance in verses 5 and 6. If I forget you, Jerusalem, let my right hand forget how to play the harp. May my tongue stick to the roof of my mouth if I fail to remember you, if I don't make Jerusalem my greatest joy. The writer is a temple musician, an artist whose entire livelihood, status, and identity depend on his right hand's ability to skillfully pluck the strings of the harp and his tongue's ability to articulate the beautiful melodies of the liturgy. He deliberately invokes a self-malediction, a curse upon his own biological tools of expression. He says, if I ever allow the comfort, the wealth, and the seductive luxury of Babylon to make me complacent, if I ever forget the cosmic center of Mount Zion, if I ever assimilate into this pagan empire and lose my distinct identity, then let my right hand instantly wither and lose its muscle memory. Let my tongue become paralyzed, permanently sticking to the roof of my mouth, so that I can never sing another note of any song for the rest of my life. This is a magnificent display of spiritual resilience. The psalmist realizes that the ultimate danger of the exile is not physical death, but cultural and spiritual amnesia. Babylon wants the exiles to forget who they are, to forget the covenant, and to forget the cosmic blueprint of the Creator. By making Jerusalem his greatest joy, even while it sits in smoldering ruins, the exile is performing an act of fierce, defiant loyalty. He anchors his mind to the unshakable reality of God's future restoration, refusing to let the temporary success of the rebel principalities redefine the true focus of his soul. The third segment is the cry for cosmic justice and the eradication of the rebel seed. Psalm 137, verses 7, 8, and 9. O Lord, remember what the Edomites did on the day the armies of Babylon captured Jerusalem. Destroy it, they yelled. Level it to the ground. O Babylon, you will be destroyed. Happy is the one who pays you back for what you have done to us. Happy is the one who takes your babies and smashes them against the rocks. The final movement of the psalm transitions from a private, agonizing sorrow into a fierce, shocking, and deeply violent cry for ultimate cosmic justice in the heavenly courtroom. O Lord, remember what the Edomites did on the day the armies of Babylon captured Jerusalem. Destroy it, they yelled. Level it to the ground. The psalmist appeals directly to the righteous judge, calling down an official, celestial investigation into the betrayal of Edom. The Edomites were the direct descendants of Esau. They were Israel's closest biological brothers. Yet, when the Babylonian armies marched against Jerusalem, the Edomites didn't stand with their family. They acted as opportunistic jackals, cheering on the destruction, helping the invaders round up fleeing refugees, and shouting for the absolute erasure of the cosmic mountain. Level it to the ground. This was an act of profound covenant treachery, a violation of fraternal law that required a definitive response from the sovereign commander of the universe. Then, the psalm concludes with verses 8 and 9, containing some of the most horrifying graphic imagery in all of Holy Scripture. O Babylon, you will be destroyed. Happy is the one who pays you back for what you have done to us. Happy is the one who takes your babies and smashes them against the rocks. To a modern reader, conditioned by comfortable peacetime ethics, this language sounds entirely monstrous, vindictive, and ungodly. We shrink back from the thought of killing infants. But to fully understand this text, we must remove our modern filters and handle it with raw, ancient Near Eastern realism and cosmic council clarity. First, this is a cry for lex talionis, the strict law of exact proportional justice. When the Babylonian armies conquered Jerusalem, they systematically, ruthlessly slaughtered the Israelite infants, throwing them against the rocks to ensure the permanent, total eradication of the Jewish lineage. The psalmist is praying that the exact same measure of suffering be meted out to the perpetrators. He is asking for true, uncompromised equity in the courtroom of history. Second, and most importantly, we must view this through the lens of the ongoing cosmic warfare between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, stretching all the way back to Genesis chapter 3. Babylon was the ultimate capital of the serpent's kingdom on earth. The babies of Babylon were not viewed merely as innocent, neutral individuals. They were the future generation of the rebellion, the seed of the cosmic rebels who would grow up to inherit the scepter of wickedness, maintain the systems of demonic oppression, and continue to hunt down the image bearers of Yahweh. By pronouncing a blessing upon the one who smashes the babies against the rocks, the psalmist is praying for the final, permanent termination of the wicked line. He is praying for the total, absolute destruction of the serpent's empire, ensuring that the mechanism of sin and tyranny is permanently shattered at its root, so that the true, unhindered shalom of God can finally fill the planet. It is a desperate, bloody cry for the final victory of the true king over the forces of ultimate evil. The third segment is navigating the modern Babylon with defiant loyalty. Psalm 137, verses 1 through 9, provides us with a gritty, unvarnished, and profoundly realistic blueprint for maintaining our faith while living behind enemy lines. It validates the reality of holy sorrow. The Bible never asks us to pretend that everything is fine when we are surrounded by a culture that mocks our convictions, destroys our values, and attempts to turn our sacred worship into commercial entertainment. It is entirely appropriate and deeply biblical to weep over the broken state of our world and to hang our harps on the poplars when the environment demands that we compromise our allegiance to the King. As you walk your trek today, cultivate the unbending, resilient focus of the exile's oath. We are living as spiritual foreigners inside a modern Babylon, a global culture that is deeply influenced by the deceptive, proud principalities of this age. The temptation to assimilate, to forget our cosmic identity, and to use our talents to please the captors is immense. Wean your heart from the seductive comforts of this world. Bind your mind to the unshakable remembrance of the true kingdom of God. Make your relationship with Jesus Christ your absolute greatest joy, long before you ever seek the validation of this society. And when you feel overwhelmed by the injustice, the cruelty, and the arrogance of the world, do not take personal revenge. Instead, cast your rage, your trauma, and your cries for justice directly into the celestial courtroom of your righteous judge. Trust that the God of heaven will completely execute true equity, permanently dismantle the systems of the serpent, and safely guide your resilient footsteps all the way out of the exile into the eternal, glorious sanctuary of his unshakable shalom. If you found this podcast insightful, please subscribe and leave us a review, then encourage your friends and family to join us and come along tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, Creating a Legacy. As we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. Join me next time for more daily wisdom